my absolute favorite squat bar is no longer available. But today I'm going to tell you exactly why it's my favorite, what alternatives still exist, and the key problem that you're going to need to solve in order to use it effectively. Let's go. What's up guys, Kyle with HypertroFit.com, the best place to design your home gym and develop your training program. Today we are talking about none other than the Kabuki Duffalo Bar. This has been a mainstay in my lower body training for the last year and is primarily the only way that I squat now. It's become my favorite bar to squat with for a number of reasons, but unfortunately you can no longer purchase this. It's no longer made, it's no longer for sale anywhere. You have to come buy this on the secondhand market if you want a true Kabuki Duffalo bar. That's not to say that there aren't alternatives, and I'm going to mention a few of those later in this video. But first I want to start with talking about why I love this bar and why I've transitioned to primarily squatting with it. First and foremost, this is a Buffalo style bar, meaning that it comes with the big curved camber. Overall, this is a 96-inch long bar. It's extremely long, 32 millimeters and 55 pounds. The most notable part about using this is obviously that big curve, and the main feature of this is that allows a lot less stress on your joints, namely your shoulders and your elbows when wedging into a back squat position, especially if you are a low bar squatter. Typically, if you're a high bar squatter, it's not quite as egregious on those joints, but as you get lower down your back, it becomes much more noticeable. With the camber, your hands are able to sit lower than they typically would and a little bit further forward, and this makes a world of difference in terms of how your arms actually feel when wedging into that squat position. One of my favorite parts of squatting with it is you can pretty much guarantee that wherever you set this thing up, it is not going to budge. You're going to see after you squat on days when using it that an entire bar impression wraps around the top of your back, unlike any other straight bar possibly could because of all of the contact points. This is incredibly nice as a low bar squatter, knowing that I have the confidence to set this where I want it and it's not going to go anywhere. And speaking of the knurl, this is probably my favorite knurl of any bar or any equipment piece with knurling on it that I've ever used. It's the perfect balance of fineness, grippiness, and tactility without chewing up your hands needlessly. This combined with the curvature of the bar really does glue it in place. And I do know that some people really like using this bar for pressing as well. Doing this on a bench press is going to increase the range of motion because of that camber. It's also going to put your wrists in a slightly different position, which some people have told me is very comfortable for them. I personally don't use this bar or any style of Buffalo bar for pressing because with my long arms, I don't really need additional range of motion. When I hit my chest, I'm pretty much as far as I could go anyways, but I have heard that this is a benefit to a lot of people looking for something like that. And so while I use this primarily as my squat bar, it does have some value in the pressing department as well. So to be clear, this bar isn't unlocking any new exercises for you that you didn't already have access to with a regular straight bar. If anything, I actually got some limitations that a straight bar wouldn't have, but what will show you the next piece of equipment to add that does unlock new exercises is my home gym building app, which just got a major upgrade and a brand new name, GymSmith. GymSmith allows you to recreate your space one-to-one, whether it's a simple rectangular room or a more complex layout with diagonal or even curved walls. Pull from a database of over 1,000 pieces of equipment that's growing weekly across the biggest brands in the space using real equipment dimensions so you can see what fits. Drag and drop these in the space, compare where things might be tight and where you have room to expand, and then look at your exercise coverage to see what you can train and what you might be missing. You can build out multiple iterations of your gym, compare them, share them, and even import other people's gyms into your space and make them your own. All of this is available completely for free on hypertrofit.com/GymSmith. Start forging your home gym today. Now there is something to note when using a Duffalo or Buffalo style bar that is not straightforward, and that is that resting these in regular J-cups doesn't work very well. What I mean by this is because of the camber, the bar likes to flip and it likes to point down to the ground, which is the opposite direction of where you want it to be. So there's a couple different ways to fix this. First, I do want to warn you, don't use these on roller J-cups, because that roller is going to provide even more instability, which is not what you want when setting this up. So you want something with a solid surface, and there are two main options. One, you can buy the premium purpose-built camber block bar, something like Rogue sells with their Ghost Roller J-cups, specifically with the camber bar insert. That's gonna run you about $300 to set that up, and it's beautifully designed for it, but it's insanely expensive just to be able to hold one bar on the rack. The second option is to wedge some sort of angled block underneath your J-hook so that it can angle out from the rack and rest at the angle of the bar. So I'll show some B-roll of what this looks like. I used a wooden block that I ended up cutting with a jigsaw to fit on here, and then affixed a little magnetic strip on the inside to give it even more security up against the rack. You don't necessarily need to do that. This can support itself just by having the J-hooks laid down on it. I actually got this idea from Kurt Locker back in 2020 or 2021, and these two little things that I cut out myself have held up ever since, and it makes the setup with the Duffalo bar so much better, because now that bar is coming into rest at the same angle as the bend towards the J-hooks, and it's much less likely to tip over. With my J-hooks, which I have the Titan X3 ones, they're a little bit longer, so there's still some space for the bar to rotate, but it's really not too much of an issue. I can easily wedge into position here, and especially once there's a couple plates on the bar, there's no issue with me getting a comfortable and consistent setup. Prior to having something like this, it's much harder to wedge in and feel confident with where you're actually placing this bar on your back, because it's so willing to flip over and try to come off of you. So do know that it's not as straightforward as just picking up another bar and starting to use it. You really do need to consider how you're actually racking this. And if you do make that fix, it makes this much smoother. So this is not something that I had on my radar. Shout out to Massonomics. I still need to get in your guys' setup with my gym. But it is something that you need to know if you are going to go through the process of using a Duffalo or Buffalo bar. So with all that being said, like I said in the beginning, the Duffalo bar is no longer available, but I'll give you two alternatives that I think are very worthy of sitting beside the Duffalo bar. The first is going to be the Rogue CB4. This is the more premium option, and it's a little bit different than the Duffalo bar in that it's a little bigger in every respect. So whereas the Duffalo bar is a 55-pound, 32-millimeter bar, the Rogue CB4 is 60 pounds and 38 millimeters. So it's even thicker and even heavier. It's actually an inch shorter, but for all intents and purposes, it's going to be feeling similar racking it in the rack. The camber is a little bit deeper than the Duffalo bar as well, at I believe 4.4 inches. So it's not a one-to-one replacement, but it's still going to present you with a similar feel. The total price of that bar is $520 as of the making of this video, and with most Rogue things, just like this one, it doesn't come with free shipping, so you would tack that on top of the price. So it's a very expensive bar, and to be fair, when the Duffalo bar was being sold, it was like a $600 or $700 bar, so it was not cheap by any means. Now, the second option, which is probably better for most people just from a budget standpoint, is the Fringe Sport Longhorn bar. This one comes in at $399 and is the closest spiritual successor, in my opinion, to what the Duffalo bar was. The camber is pretty much the same. The length is 1 inch shorter, but the diameter is the same at 32 millimeters, and they're going for a similar volcano knurl, 1,500 pound weight capacity instead of the 2,000 of the Duffalo bar. Again, not an issue. I do also want to mention on the Rogue CB4, Rogue's website mentions that the bar doesn't have any bounce to it when there's 900 plus pounds on it. So for all you guys that need that, do note that the CB4 can confidently support 1,000 pounds for you without much whip. So I thought I'd throw that in here. But back to the Longhorn bar, it looks like a really solid option. I've not used it. I can't really say how good or good it isn't, but just going purely off of spec and especially off of price, it looks like it would be a worthy option in this category. There's a couple other companies that are doing cheaper bars. I know Titan and Bells of Steel both have their own kind of cambered buffalo style bar. Again, I haven't used those. They tend to look like they're much deeper cambers, which I think would be a little bit more awkward, because what's nice about the Duffalo bar is it's keeping you as close to a straight bar in feel of the squat as you can without having all of that extra stress on the elbows and the shoulders. So if you're looking for something like this, I think the Rogue or the Fringe Sport options are probably the way to go. So those are my thoughts on my favorite squat bar, the Kabuki Duffalo Bar. I genuinely miss Kabuki as a brand. I loved seeing Duffin's updates every single couple of months with the different crazy lifts that he was doing and the crazy bars that he was putting out. But now we have some other companies trying to pick up the slack and figure out what can be the next great specialty bar in the squat line. So I would love to know you guys' thoughts. If there's other similar style squat bars that you really like, or if you've tried the Rogue CB4 or the Fringe Longhorn bar, let me know, and let me know how that compares to the Duffalo bar if you've actually tried them both. But I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I will catch you guys again in the next one.